So my name is Robbie Bruce. I'm with Barco. I run our product management division for immersive experiences. Uh, IPMX is something I've been working with the SMPTE committee for quite some time, trying to get this through, and I'll try to explain why and some of the benefits. So I'll go through this maybe a little bit out of order, but today, if you go AV over IP with SMPTE 2110 in broadcast, it took a little while for those guys to get up and get the studios fully enabled with 2110. The natural progression of that is into all the broadcast-like scenarios. So it's not a studio, but it might be an enterprise, or it might be in a live event, in a concert. You still have the same sort of a broadcast production workflow, but it's when you're in an enterprise, you want a little more flexibility. If you're touring, you still want to be a single connection that's you bring it down and tear it up and tear it down. The other part was for mostly in fixed installation, in the fixed installation space, HD-based-T could only support 4K 30, and they used essentially SMPTE 2110 as a way to say, let's be able to use this to extend and put a lot more compression. You see companies like Extron, Prestron, everybody has their proprietary solution. Then you see NDI. So this is an example of one of our use cases for a corporate event. These corporate events could be, something that's like a pop-up, like an AWS type of show where they have thousands of people, gigantic LEDs. But it also could be in a company, a corporate, an enterprise space that also has the same needs, maybe a little bit smaller, but it's more operational, and they have to do it over and over and over for, it has to be operational 24, every day of the week. So where we see benefit is we make products right here, at least I do. We also have projectors that are for the screen. We do LED as well. For us, we're kind of sitting in the middle of the workflow where we're taking all these inputs in, trying to create some kind of canvas, be able to have some sort of like a slideshow type experience, and you see through different transitions through a presentation. So we bring in SDI cameras, we take out, we take SDI in, we do it out, we take HDMI, display port, all these things, and now we'll be trying to go into the remote workflow, which is more common. I will go to that in a minute. But today, all this is in a single space. It's either usually have a space, you have a closet, and you have a control room. And so all these assets are used specifically for that space. And that creates a little bit of a problem if you're in a corporate environment, and let's say you have 10 or 20 of these type of spaces, you're not using that equipment 100% of the time, so utilization of the equipment is not as high as you would expect for that type of investment. But also you want more signals that are coming in and out of that room. So now you're converting, you've got these protocols. So you're like, how do I get AV over IP? How do I get the flexibility of routing so I'm not taking everything into a single concentrated router in the room or in the control room or in the closet, but I need to get those signals out, and I want to do it in an efficient way. Today, your options are, I go NDI, but it's on 1 gig, or I can go NDI HX, which is a 264, and you sacrifice quality. SVOE is only on 10 gig. All right, what if I have a 1 gig solution? What do I do then? Now I have to support 2 different discovery protocols, 2 different routing schemes. Now you have Dante as well. Dante has their, they're great for audio. They also now have a video-like product that is similar in the 1G space as well. And of course, you have HD-based-T that can try to do some compression to keep HD-based-T alive. But really what most of these are doing is essentially focusing primarily on extension and not necessarily interoperability. So SMPTE 2110 came out, and it was really great for broadcast, but it has a couple limitations for us. One of them is our screens, the aspect ratios are rarely 16:9 or, and meaning it's based on the LED size, so it's all sort of irregular screen shapes, as well as we care a lot about latency. So if you have a presenter sitting sitting on stage, you have an iMac above them, you want that to be as low latency as possible, because it does get distracting if it's more than 5 frames plus, and every time you go through a hop, you incur about at least a frame of latency at every hop. So if you can minimize all that, and that's where we focus our products here. So when 2110 came out, we thought, oh, this will be the answer, but it turned out to be a little bit more difficult. It's 2110 does require a PTP clock, a gen lock signal for all signals. That meant how do I get that signal locked to and from my PC? It's not so simple. You need a PTP master, which can be also expensive. But also from a connector, I make boxes, frames that have cards in. And it's easy today. I've got SDI, DisplayPort, HDMI. Well, now when I go to the network world, the way it's fragmented today, I'm going to have to, even though it's a network, I'm still bound by these solutions to my data pipe. It's either going to be a 1 gig or a 10 gig. They define the compression ratio. What I love about IPMX is, first, it's standard-based, so it's open, but it gives you that flexibility of the trade-offs, but it puts it in your hands, saying, I really care about the quality of my video going to my screen. I have $1 million screen. I don't want to compromise the color. So I want uncompressed to the screen, but to the downstage monitors that are providing the notes feedback, I don't need that. I would prefer to have a 1 gig or even stream it, but I want to be able to have that choice. As well as, so today, IPMX is focusing on, who here doesn't know what IPMX is first? All right, so we're trying to focus with IPMX for interoperability. It's called profiles. So you'll have a certain number of profiles that could be supported, and profile 1 will always be interoperable with profile 1 type boxes. So you can swap out individual vendors. You're not stuck in a vendor locked. Especially in the corporate AV. I think we saw issues with Crestron not being able to deliver this last year, and a lot of customers, they had no choice because their entire infrastructure was Crestron. It's very expensive to move out of that. So in this world, our boxes moving forward will all have 100 gig pipe. Multiples will have probably 100 gig connections to a core router. 100 gig seems to be the sweet spot for us as it relates to mainly from the cost of the switch. It's hard to get a 200 gig backbone on a switch at an affordable price today, but it'll get there eventually. But so what you're going to get is, let's go to this slide. So what that allows us to do is where I can do two things, the flexibilities. One, I don't need to put everything in the room. I can now move assets where they need to be. So for example, I can take some of the stuff that needs to be in the room for IMAG for low latency processing, I can keep in the room, but everything else can move out of the space. I can put it in a data center where I don't need necessarily to take assets and store, and be very specific for that use case. For example, in an enterprise, if it's not being used in California, I can use it to drive screens in New York. Or even globally. Remote operation, today you need somebody to run those rooms, but it may be costly to have 5, if you have 5 rooms, I'm going to have 5 separate operators. This allows you to at least centralize the operation and actually be able to operate multiple facilities at once. And you start to hear some of the same benefits of broadcasting. They went to the centralized and distributed from a truck perspective, and this is kind of driving the same needs. How do we lower cost? How do I get my CapEx down? How can I move more to an OpEx type of model? How can I increase my efficiency? How can I increase my resilience? So when you start looking at all that, it's easier for me to develop a product that can scale and solve the needs of our customers. And all of our products moving forward will support IPMX. We have, I think, 3, 4 products that we're launching at ISC, all of them with IPMX. So for us, this is the future, and this is where we're heading. And I have evangelized a lot for the IPMX protocol. I think it's extraordinarily important. But ideally, it will go back to this slide. It will replace all of those. It will have the same functionality. We'll have it'll be able to do 25 gig uncompressed. You can have uncompressed, a little compression, a lot of compression for 1 gig, a 4K 60 on a 1 gig pipe. Or we're now including the variable bitrate codecs, H.264, H.265. So what that allows us to do is have one discovery control in MOS to be able to control whatever the size network that I need or whatever codec is needed in the project. But for our cases, a lot of our customers, we're supporting all of these at the same time. So it does really simplify a lot of things for us to get IPMX moving. As a lot of things have to transpire, and we're still just walking, just barely crawling, I would say, today. But I think once it becomes fully enabled, then you're going to see companies like AWS. We were in conversation with AWS and Microsoft. They're now implementing IPMX as part of their infrastructure as well. I talked to Intel. They're getting, so it won't be long once we get enough mass, and costs will go down as more people get on the bandwagon. There may be even ASICs available. The cost will go down, and bandwidth will continue to go up. And so this is the way we can scale and move forward in the future. I think that's about all I had. Did anybody have any questions? I just really wanted to leave it up to mostly for questions.